Okay, locks of the week. Ashton, you are just on an absolute heater. Last week, 3-0. Your bets were Michigan minus 17.5, Penn State minus 25.5, and Oregon State minus 2.5. 3 wins for you. That brings you to 12-2 on the season. Excellent. Just carrying us. I continue to be completely mediocre. I went 2-2. Second week in a row, I think I was 2-2. I had Florida plus 3. That didn't come close. Penn State minus 25.5. Clemson minus 6.5. Those were both, I felt good about both of those, especially Clemson. And I had LSU minus 2.5. And yeah, they got in a shootout with Ole Miss and ended up on the wrong side of that. So 2-2 for me, which puts me at 14-16 for the season. So, all right, what do you have for this week, week 6?
Okay. So I went ahead and teased one early on in the breakdown. It's the Red River Shootout. I don't think there's that big of a difference between these two teams. I think Oklahoma has, objectively, Oklahoma has been undervalued by Vegas this far. They've wiped out their point spreads in all 5 games. Texas is a really good football team. I'm not discrediting them at all. I just think that Oklahoma is a little undervalued. You mentioned the backup quarterback scenario, which we fell into last year for Oklahoma. They seem to have a much better scenario this year. I just think that 7 number, which I can get right now, is still a bit high. I would be taking Oklahoma to cover that 7 points. I'm not saying that they're the better team, that they're going to win outright. I just think they keep it closer than 7. This is a wild game. We've seen a lot of different things happen, huge momentum shifts. That's just too much to be betting over a touchdown. So, yeah, I'll be taking Oklahoma to cover those 7.
All right. For the first time this year, we have a lock fight. I am taking Texas minus 6. I have a 6 out there. Thank you, DraftKings. So it's possible for one of us to win and the other one to just get their money back on this one. But I just feel like Texas is clearly better than Oklahoma. I like the way they've been handling their business this season. I think Oklahoma is built perfectly this year to dominate overmatched opponents. And Texas is not an overmatched opponent. I think they are better on the lines of scrimmage. I think they're a lot better at receiver. And I think their defense is probably better as well. So I feel like Texas is clearly the more well-rounded team. I'm just happy we finally have a disagreement. So the numbers would say that everyone should go with you on this one, but I actually don't hate this. I feel pretty good about Texas minus 6.
Was this one that when you saw it, you were like all over it? Like you're like, yeah, like that's you were all about Texas. You thought that
Not
was too
necessarily. I think the line is fine. It makes complete sense. I just think Texas is clearly the better team. And I think I trust them more this year than I have in a long time, since 2009, quite frankly. So I think some of this line it almost feels like it factors in some of the, the last 15 years of disappointment that we've seen out of Texas, like just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I actually don't know that I expect that, especially against Oklahoma. Like they've shown up last year. You could say what you will about Oklahoma and the quarterback situation last year. Texas showed up to play. They just curb stomped them. So, yeah. What else do you have, Ashton?
So I'll be honest, that was the only one I felt really, really good about.
Okay.
I have a couple of more that I considered. Let's just talk about the Missouri LSU game for a bit, please. There's no world where LSU, off of that performance, goes on the road to Missouri against an undefeated Missouri team who's clicking on offense and has a future NFL stud at receiver. And somehow LSU's favored by 6.5 on the road. Like, that one doesn't make sense to me. We both talked about it. It almost has me so spooked that I'm just going to stay away from it. I think Missouri's the right side there. From what my eyeballs have seen, Missouri is the correct side to be on there.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I have this thing that scares me away sometimes from games like this, where I think about what I thought. Okay, I just asked myself, what did you think about these teams before the season? And would this line make any sense? And no, before the season, if I saw this line, I'd be all over LSU, wondering why it wasn't a touchdown higher. So if I balance out what my preseason expectations were with what I've seen from them so far this year, then the line kind of makes sense. I don't know if that's a fair way of looking at it or not. If the line would be go ahead.
Well, no, I think that's completely right. Like there's no question that what we've seen has affected us, but we've seen football games. Like we've watched LSU play football games and be unable to tackle people, especially in the second half. That was an LSU team that easily could have lost to Arkansas 2 weeks ago and then got kind of run over by Ole Miss. They got run over by Florida State. Like there's questions about this LSU team. Like I agree with you. And in fact, if anything, I would be maybe on LSU to cover the 6.5 just because the line is so scary. And it almost makes me think that something's up. But yeah, like at some point, the results do have to matter too. And I will say just one quick point. Vegas is tightening up these lines. Like there was money to be made early on. We talk about this quite a bit. There's margin. There's some where guys like me and you who watch these games, we can find some gaps in a place to like, oh, they undervalued that team. We're going to keep on betting that team. This is week 6 now. Vegas has tightened up those lines, and you're seeing some of these little trap lines like this one right here, like where they're trying to get you to bet one side. I think that if you want to make money against Vegas, it's way easier to do it earlier in the year.
Yeah. The other thing to remember on Missouri is Luther Burden, obviously, he's an absolute beast. He's a great receiver. I'm still not convinced Brady Cook is good. Like, I think he's solid. Like, he's better than he used to be. I'm still not sure he's good. And if LSU finally figures out just to let Harold Perkins cook, like, you wouldn't be shocked at all if Harold Perkins gets him 3 times. And, well, they also have other great defensive linemen, frankly. I mean, they have 2 great defensive tackles. What if Missouri can't throw because they don't have more than 2.5 seconds to throw the ball ever? Like, there's also that possibility. So
correct.
I wouldn't fight you on anything you choose here. I'm just staying away from it for sure.
I'm going to stay away from it as well. At least, for the locks, I'm just going to stay away from it. I think it's very interesting. The line scared me away. Like, you know what I mean? Like if that's it was clearly so heavily slanted to LSU, just trying to keep all that LSU money away. I thought, that's interesting. The other one, I think I will go ahead and pull the trigger on Notre Dame covering the 6.5 points on the road against Louisville. I think Louisville just hasn't played anyone, and I think Notre Dame's good. I think Notre Dame's legitimately good. Hopefully they get the receivers back this week. That would be huge. Sam Hartman's a stud. Like I trust that guy, especially on the road, super experienced. They're the better football team. I think they go and win by more than 1 score.
One of those receivers, Jaden Greathouse, he got hurt last week on Thursday. So they didn't have any time to account for him not being in the game, really in the game plan. So I don't know if he's back or not, but I think they have a pretty good idea. So they have a full week to prepare one way or another. I agree with you. Louisville is not that good. If they are, we're going to see it, and we'll just be wrong. But I'm joining you on this one. So we have 1 lock fight and 1 lock agreement. I will also take Notre Dame minus 6.5. All the lines right now that I'm looking at are 6.5, and I'm looking at 8 different sites. I don't really get it. Like, I think I get it just because Notre Dame hasn't exactly lit the world on fire, and Louisville is undefeated.
Sure.
This should be 7 or higher. So I'll join you on that one. I have 2 other lines I'm looking at, and you tell me if they're a trap.
Okay.
I have a Texas Tech plus 1.5 against Baylor. I know Baylor had a big win last week, and Texas Tech has not exactly been matching expectations. I just feel like Tech is better than Baylor.
I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Like you're correct. That's a terrifying line. Some of these lines are absolutely terrifying. I wouldn't touch that one.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I'll stay away from it. I don't know. Yeah.
You need to get back to even. You know that, right? Like
I know I do.
Some bets out.
I'm going to put the pause on that one. I'm going to choose one of these 2. My other one is Oregon State minus 9.5 against Cal. Why is it only 9.5 against Cal?
I don't have a great one for you there either. I really don't. Cal got absolutely blitzed by Washington. They did beat Arizona State by 3 points. Arizona State's not real good. It's a home game for Cal. Like I don't have much for you. Like I'm kind of grasping at straws there. I think that's the right side. Like I don't think that one's a trap. I think there's money to be made on Oregon State.
Okay. I'll take that one then. I'll take Texas Tech off the board. Give me Oregon State minus 9.5 against Cal with the caveat that I don't know why it's that low and it feels like a trap. And if I lose, it's okay. We'll look back and say that was definitely a trap because it doesn't make any sense to me. So
we're going to talk about the Colorado line yet? Any? Okay. How about this?
Go ahead.
If by Friday night it is still at what's it at right now? Sorry, I'm looking. Or if it's still there, if it's still Colorado by 4, you take Arizona State. Can we just agree to that?
I ain't touching it.
We'll go ahead and agree to that one. I might be jumping on Arizona State Friday night. That's a possibility.